All right. Well, we started another week here yesterday, and it's another good opportunity for us to really make some progress as a team and individually, um, which we all need. So hopefully we can do that and take advantage of these days and look at the corrections from the game, from the Washington game, and address some of those. There's still a lot of other things we need to move forward on. So we'll do that, and said hopefully we can string a few good days together here this week and make some real progress.
Bill, when you're working with young linebackers or linebackers who don't have a lot of experience in coverage, what sort of things do you work on with them to help build that skill set?
The techniques that they use on different coverages and against different types of pass patterns and different types of receivers. Because at that position, you could end up covering a receiver, a tight end, a running back. And then, so, I mean, the whole thing about pass coverage is, we have more guys than they do in pass coverage most of the time. So there's help somewhere, so it's knowing where your help is, knowing how to use it, and the help, being able to provide what help that extra person can provide for who. Deep, short, inside, outside, whatever it is. So coordination of all that is really, there's a lot of teaching there. Very professional. Yeah, he's great. Hardworking kid, smart, has experience. Just picked things up well. It's been good.
Was him not playing on Thursday? Was that a result of you knowing what you had, or an injury?
The guys we played. The guys we didn't play, we didn't play. We'll play other guys this week, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, you all know I'm not talking about anybody's injuries, so there's no point in bringing that up. We're not going through that. Can't look at everybody every week. It's just too many guys. So some guys won't play one week. Some guys play more the other week.
So what traits stand out to you about Keontae Davis, and have you seen some progress from him after having him sit out last year?
Oh, yeah, he's made a lot of progress. He's a versatile player. He's got good physical skills. Played well at Chattanooga. And as you said, he didn't really get a chance to do much last year other than train, but he's trained hard. He's in good condition. He's getting his timing and reps back on the football side of it. He's making good progress, so hopefully he can continue to progress.
Is he a guy who had any experience playing inside, or was he purely at the end when he came here?
He mainly played end at Chattanooga, yeah.
Bill, I know you deal with this to some extent offensively and defensively, but when it comes to the kickoff, how do you balance working on what you want to work on in these preseason games while not maybe putting everything that you want to do in the regular season on tape?
Yeah, well, I think you can work on fundamentals that apply to a different scheme, even though you don't run the exact same scheme. So, but I mean, again, there's not that many. I mean, look, there's only so much you can do, and everybody's pretty much seen everything one way or another over, a period of time anyway, whether it's this year or last year, however far back you want to go. So there's not a whole lot that's, like I would say, brand new. So, in the end, it's, your personnel or their personnel and seeing how it's utilized. And, whoever we play, they're going to try to use their best players and create opportunities for those guys. And we'll try to do the same thing. So, and that's all a little bit game planned or, specific to a particular situation or game. But the fundamentals are fundamentals. I mean, you don't put in a whole lot of new fundamentals each week.
even with the new rules, though, do you think what you'll see in the
The
preseason
new
is
rules
similar?
aren't really new rules. They've taken out a couple things. They haven't really changed anything. I mean, you still can block who you can block. They took out the wedge. And they changed a couple alignments, but that's not really. I mean, there's a lot of teams that lined up 5-by-5 to kick the ball off. I mean, in the history of football, I mean, there's like probably at least a billion examples of that. So they shortened the takeoff a little bit. All right, and they've changed the alignment a little bit. I would say for a lot of teams, the alignments on the kickoff return really teams had those alignments anyway. I'm not saying it's the same, but there are a lot of teams that did align like that. There are plenty of examples they showed in the coaching tapes when they talked about this rule where they showed teams lined up last year the way they lined up, and like this is illegal. This will be a legal alignment this year. This would be an illegal alignment. Not that anybody was illegal last year because the rule wasn't in place, but they were just showing examples of a guy a yard or two lined differently by a yard or two made it legal or illegal. But again, you're talking about a pretty minimal adjustment in terms of alignment. And they took out the wedge, so all right, so that's eliminated. So unless every return's a wedge, then you can run the returns that you were running, or maybe modify them a little bit. But it's taking out something, not putting it in. And honestly, there weren't that many wedge returns in the last, I'd say, 3-4 years. Anyway, I mean, there were a couple teams that ran them, but it wasn't like you saw it, every return every week, like it was in the '70s or there, where everything was either 3 or 4 man wedge. I mean, that was the return. That's just not like that anymore.
Bill, as you evaluate tackling after the first preseason game, is that sort of a big milestone to see technique in that setting?
Well, running and tackling are two skills that you don't work on from the end of the season until pretty much the first preseason game. You can do a little drill work, but it's not quite the same. So any player that's involved in any of those, running or tackling, they might have done it before, but they haven't done it recently, and they haven't done it at the timing and speed that it occurs in the game. So there's an adjustment, a break-in period for all of us, and that's part of what preseason games are for. You simulate it in practice, but it's not quite the same. So live tackling there's a lot to learn from that, and we can all get better at it. We can improve our tackling. We can certainly improve our running and breaking tackles. So that's part of the process.
Isaac, when sort of over the offensive line through the spring and a little bit here in the summer, how has he done in that aspect? What have you seen from him in terms of versatility as he sorts of grasp the offense?
Yeah, we ask almost everybody on our team to do multiple things. So sometimes that manifests itself during the year, sometimes it doesn't. But I would say almost everybody, the exception of a couple players and a couple positions, have multiple roles.
How has Isaiah just done over this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, he's a smart kid. He picks things up well.
How important is it to give each player, I guess, kind of a fresh start when they come in each season and not pigeonhole them as, well, this guy was a practice squad player last year, and just focus in on what they're doing, I guess, this offseason or this practice or just camp?
I don't know. I'd say it's not hard for me. I think maybe it might be harder for other people. I think sometimes it's harder for the players. They've been in a certain role and they're not used to not being in that role, whether it's practice squad or starter or whatever it is. And sometimes that's the bigger adjustment. Either way, as odd as that sounds, not always, but sometimes. Yeah, I see a clean slate every year. I can't speak for everybody else. You'd have to ask them that.
Bill, on a different note, last week Steve Smith came out talking about his battle with depression through his career and et cetera. And I was just wondering if you dealt with players who have battled depression, obviously without going into any names specifically, but have you seen the effect it can have or cripple a player's career in your 44 or 45 years of coaching?
Yeah, I'd say I've seen pretty much every medical condition in football in that course of time. I mean, occasionally something comes up that's different, but usually it's the comment is, well, this is similar to what somebody else had, but here's the little difference. Let's say, I can't even remember the last time we've talked about something medically, and I've had to have explained to me, like, well, we've never heard of this before. What is it? That's so, it, you know, there are common things that are fairly common, and then there are other things that are unusual. But I think over that period of time that you referenced, thank you for reminding me of that. that you know, over that course of time, it's come up either on our team or in the evaluation of draft prospects, which is, you know, it's called 400 or 500 guys a year, in addition to free agents, so players that have been in this league that have had some kind of condition on some other team that we've evaluated, however many that is a year. I mean, you're talking about probably, I don't know, in the neighborhood of 800 to 1,000 guys each season. Now, some of those are the same guys, but I mean, I'm just saying that's a lot of people. So there's not too many things that our medical staff, doctors, trainers, strength conditioning coaches that we haven't dealt with, and we have to deal with those on every level, not just treating the condition, but also integrating the player back into some type of workload, eventually practice and competitive situations. Now, they may not always get to that point, something might come up along the way, but assuming that they're still playing football, it's not just, you know, treating a guy and, you know, putting a Band-Aid on whatever his injury is. It's also, you know, finding the right formula and adjusting whatever his training methods are to allow him to continue to play football if he's been cleared medically or if he's in the process of being cleared. So it involves everybody, not just the doctor, all the people, which in some cases it goes to the coaches as well. Certainly it's strength coach and training staff.
Any final questions? So any extra motivation with the Eagles coming here this week?
Yeah, right now we're really just trying to focus on having a good practice today. That's what we need to do. Build off yesterday, correct some mistakes from yesterday, and go out and have a good day today.
Well, going back, I guess, to the clean slate, are there any players in particular, in your experience, who have handled that transition better than others, whether it is going from practice squad to starter or starter to backup?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's different for everybody. Like, each of us has to deal with our own situation every year, and that changes every year to some degree. Every year is different, so your role might be the same, but the circumstances around you might be different, which then changes your, it doesn't change your role, but affects your role, or vice versa. Your role might change in addition to those other things changing. I mean, we all go through that, so. Yeah, some of us adjust better or worse one year or another year. Some players are more flexible than others. Sometimes circumstances are unusual, and that changes the dynamics of it. So I don't know. It's pretty fluid. It's going to change this year multiple times. I mean, we've only been out here a couple of weeks, but over the course of it, there's going to be a lot of changes as we go through the season. So.